Meeting is being broadcast live tonight, and it will be taped for rebroadcast, so I need to see if anyone else is making a recording of this meeting. Being none, the first item on the agenda was a 7 o'clock continued public hearing for Facade Family LLC relative to the relocation and construction of a portion of Faith Avenue. Is there a motion to reopen the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Okay, the hearing is open. Mr. Kowalski.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. We had continued to this date, I believe, in order to see where the snow was going to be, and now we know it's melted, and where any kind of growth might be, and there is no growth yet as far as green, and a few grass stems here and there. So, but we didn't know if the commission had any other items or issues, and if there weren't any, we were going to ask for another continuance so that it would give Margaret and the commission time, or us all time, for the growth to occur. Margaret, Ms. Washburn might have made a report. I'm not sure. We hadn't seen it.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, we just got a report today,
Okay.
which I know is very late. Sheila sent it by email, which I didn't see, and I sent it by email to everyone.
Okay.
And asked Sheila to print it out for the board tonight.
Yes.
So I don't think I don't know whether anyone's even had a chance to read it. I mean, I read it, and I spoke to her.
Yes.
And certainly you haven't read it, so.
Right.
You know, she has some definite opinions relative to the replication area, the proposed replication area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you might want to take a look. She has some pretty strong arguments about the type of soils that are in that area, Canton soils as opposed to other types, and she talks about the fact that they're very coarse soil and that the water will percolate through those kind of soils, and she questions how effective the proposed replication area would be anyway. She also talks about, you know, the fact that the board could close the hearing and deny that filing right now. But I said to her, we still have the issue of that replication area. Speaking just for myself, I can't get past that. To me, it's a wetland. The replication is a wetland, and you know, I understand your soils argument. I do, but the bottom line is that from everything I'm hearing from Joe Bellino, from Phil Nato, and from our own consultant Margaret Washburn, soils are not a primary indicator, and it takes years for soils to develop hydrology. And I'm not convinced, and I don't know, you know, I know we talked at the last meeting about waiting until late May, early June to assess the wetland, to have an opportunity to look at the groundwater level and the vegetation and how it's functioning, thriving, or whatever. Mm-hmm. The other thing is on the order of conditions that's still open from the prior project.
Yes, sir.
I forgot what condition number it is, but there's a condition relevant to the replication area that basically says that if it's not functioning after 2 growing seasons, it has to be redone. So where that leaves this whole thing, I don't know, because I don't know. I know your client's argument, your argument, everyone's argument is that it's not a functioning wetland and it will never be a functioning wetland. So I kind of, you know, I know you need an opportunity. Her report's 4 pages long, so I know the board needs an opportunity to look at it, and as do you. So I saw your email about requesting a continuance, so I guess, you know, is your client amenable to going until the spring to wait for the vegetation to be
We are.
sufficient to evaluate?
Yes.
I'm sorry, you're going to say...
At such time as the vegetation is sufficient. Most wetland consultants can review wetlands with dead vegetation. I will say that also, because the vegetation is still out there. And it doesn't meet the 75% criteria. I'll also submit some additional information on the soil type, and that's if it's an upland soil presently, as I stated before, in the northern portion of the replication and portions of the southern, unless you have a groundwater table up into that soil, you're not going to change the color of the soil, no matter how many years it sits there, because you need water in the soil to change the color. That being said, we don't see that soil changing color because the water table has been evolved over centuries to where it is now showing hydric below and non-hydric above. So we put together another exhibit showing generally, again, it's the Ecotech northern replication area with the 10YR44. and it's a front yard of a subdivision showing the same or similar 10YR46, but we don't want to rehash the soil color, because we're going to see it when we get out there and look. But we did come across another point. The Ecotech report required 4 species of bushes, pick 3, and is what they said. So there was common winterberry, highbush blueberry, northern arrowwood, and silky dogwood. And we've already made an argument that there is red osier was put out there, which is not part of the indigenous plant species of the general in the vicinity of this wetland, anywhere in the vicinity. But additionally, we just found that the highbush blueberry is not highbush blueberry, it's maleberry, and we'll see that also during our site inspection, which is not indigenous again to that area, and it's not one of the species listed, and it didn't call for any substitution. So 2 out of the species that they had proposed to put out there, the highbush blueberry and the silky dogwood, are red osier dogwood, not indigenous, and maleberry. And we will clearly show that when we get out there. We'll also show that the replication areas don't make the 75% indigenous wetland plant species. So we'll give, and the third exhibit that I want to present is I have presently flagged 94 Japanese bamboos just in the northern portion of the replication area. There's some that are more mature with thicker stalks, and there's some very small ones. It clearly indicates again that the soil was contaminated when it was put in, and there's no way that that replication area with 94 individual plants flagged with orange, the orange wire stem stake flags, 94, the thing will be just Japanese bamboo if we leave it as it is. And the southern replication area, I just started because the soil finally thawed up enough to start flagging the Japanese bamboo in the southern. And so we'll flag those with a different color. These are orange. It's the third exhibit. So we will have a Japanese bamboo wetland, well, not wetland, because that is the portion that it has non-hydric, the entire portion of it is non-hydric. I have that, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you get me, sir?
Yeah, I have it passed.
Oh, thank you. So,
But I guess...
yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I guess, the Margaret's point and Bellino's point, and we still have a condition on that open order of conditions that says if the replication area fails after 2 growing seasons,
Yes.
you have to replant it, so you do it. So how do we get past that?
If I could,
Yeah.
we could get past it by the point that if it's not a wetland, if it's not a valid wetland at this time, as you originally started out, then it could be moved. So you can move wetlands that aren't wetlands, and originally the contention was this was a wetland. And so we can't move it because then you exceed the 5,000 square foot wetland
That's
replication threshold under 1055 4B1 through 7.
Right, and I'm
So-
not past that yet. I can't get past that.
Well, I know, but I think we will get past it once we get the site inspection, because we're going to show that it isn't a valid wetland.
Yeah, but, so what you're saying is they screwed up the wetland, so now you can move it wherever you want. I mean, that doesn't,
Well,
they shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, you should establish a wetland like you said you were gonna do, instead of saying, well, since it's not there, we'll just put it over here. That's what it
And
sounds
that's-
like to me.
Yeah, and that's the whole bottom line, because unless you can somehow take out, remove, if you will, or discount in some fashion, unless you can take that replication area, the one that currently exists,
Right.
unless you can make it go away, their project is not going to come in under 5,000 square feet. It just won't. The math isn't there.
I don't know the technical aspect, but it just seems to me kind of funny that, now all of a sudden, well, no, it didn't work, so we can put it over here instead.
if I could, the original argument by your consultant was that the only reason you couldn't move it was because it was a valid wetland.
Right.
And because it isn't a valid wetland, it doesn't
In my
count
opinion.
towards the 5,000 square feet.
Right, and that's your argument, and I get that.
But
But
that-
for me, I can't get past the fact that, to me, it is a wetland.
But,
And I get your point. I do.
but won't we go out there, if I could,
We can
and
agree to
see?
disagree, how's that?
Yes, but
We haven't made a
could.
judgment yet, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
We're just
Right,
all
we have to
talking.
see it
We
first,
haven't
that's
seen
the
anything,
thing.
so we shouldn't make any conclusions anyway.
So I guess the next question would be, Should we continue this to the last meeting in May?
Thank you, if you choose.
I mean, ultimately, we can't make a decision on what we would like to be. We have to make a decision on what is.
Yeah, but
Right.
we're not the experts that can say this or that is a wetland or not. We just have to take the opinions, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly do that if the applicant is amenable to that.
Yes.
But I just had one question. You remember at the last meeting, you had a photograph of one of the test pit areas. It was one that Ecotech had done, and it had a knife in it. It had a picture of a knife in it.
Yes.
Do you have that with you?
No.
You do not?
But I do understand the picture you're talking about.
Okay. Didn't your picture look like it had red soils?
No, that was more grays and whites. That was hydric. The knife was in at the hydric
Okay.
boundary.
I have that photo too.
Yeah.
I thought your photo was more reddish than what I saw.
No, the photo that we had, that is the southern replication area, and there's portions of the southern replication area that did get deep enough in the channel system that did make it to hydric soils.
Right, because
There's
these look
also
like hydric soils to me.
Those are hydric soils.
Right.
That's why he put the knife there. He was actually showing the hydric soil boundary. And the issue is in the depth of the channels that he has out there, he did make hydric soils. As soon as we come up out of the channels, above that elevation of that knife, it's non-hydric soils again. And so I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So a portion, as I explained the last time, a portion of the southern replication area did make it to hydric soils within those two channels that he dug. More the western one. As soon as we come up out of it to the rest of the replication, he's above that knife with his 12 inches down, and because that was before he put the 12 inches of material in, that's when it was cut. And we'll go out there and auger and prove that the water table is not within 12 inches of the final grade, both in the northern replication area, the entire portion, and the majority of the southern replication area does not have hydric soils. But that area in that central channel, and it might be kind of curious too to ask why there was no knife in a channel in the northern replication area. All we have in there, and that's all we're going to auger into, is non-hydric soils within 12 inches, within actually 15 inches to 20 inches down is where the hydric soils begin, and you need it within 12 inches. And so there's a majority of the portions of the southern replication area don't have it within 12 inches, where that knife is in the channel is, and all of the northern portion is not. So we'll end up growing at those elevations, the majority of the replication area can't become a wetland officially because it needs high water table within 12 inches of the final surface to be qualified as a wetland. But beyond the soil, if I could say, the plant species, the density of the plant species will not make it to 75% of the surface area covered with indigenous plant species because there's just too much upland stuff in there. And beyond the upland material, some of the plants they put in there are indigenous, so they can't be counted. The Mailberry was not called for by the Ecotech report, and he was specific on what he called for, but beyond that, the law also says they have to be indigenous to the lost area, and there is no silky dogwood in this region, in that we can walk the entire upstream, downstream. It's not in the report either, and there's no Mailberry in this area. It's more of a wetter plant species. The one that I'm showing you there comes from Wellington Valley. I happened to take a picture, and we can clearly see when we get out there the seed clusters. Mailberry was termed Mailberry by the colonists because they thought it was the male version of the female blueberry. And so one was called Mailberry and this was blueberry. Come to find out, blueberries have male and female on it, but they didn't know any different. So it has a similar looking stalk, similar looking color, but it's a different species. And they called out blueberry, and it's Mailberry because we have the seed stock that we can show the commission, and the dendrology is a bit different too.
Now, there are photographs from it was 2011 when the replication area was planted. And Ecotech verified it, Margaret verified it, that the plants that were called for were there. There were 20 red maples that were planted. Margaret saw them last June, just a few months ago, and they were 8 or 9 feet high. And she said they're not there anymore.
They are there. I mean, I'm not discounting the red maples that are out there. There's some dead. There's some sprouting from the center, and there are some 7 or 8 feet high. I don't know if they're 8 or 9, but I walked by them today when I was staking those 94 Japanese bamboos out. The blueberry, those red maples, if I welcome the time to walk out there with the board with Margaret's photograph in hand and look if we can see those plants and say, there it is, nobody's taking any plants away. So I'm welcoming, I plan on looking at that. In my report, I haven't counted Margaret's report yet, but I still intend to, this one and the last one. These, both last meeting and this meeting, to me, were just requests to, well, last one wasn't our meeting. You wanted the meeting, so I didn't put together my full report then. In this meeting, I brought in some more anecdotal information, but I'm still ready to do another, similar to my first report, where every single one of Margaret's points will be counted.
So is your contention that this area was not appropriately is your contention that this area was not an appropriate area to turn into a wetland replication area, or is your contention that it just simply was done wrong?
Could I? I did talk to Mr. Dugan, who you did ask who did the digging. I talked to him in the meantime from last meeting to this meeting. I asked, how was the replication done? Was it done specifically by the elevation shown on the HS&T plan? And he said, we followed the HS&T plan specifically. We shot the grades that they showed, and there's a major error in that. Because an engineer in an office comes close maybe to the elevations. There's two things. What we did was do test holes, which the wetland replication protocol from March 2002 calls to do a test hole, show where the water table is, and make sure your final grade is within 12 inches of that hydric soil. We adjusted in the new plan that you received the replication elevation from the original Waterman design of last summer. We brought it down in 6 to 10 inches, whatever it is, and it's detailed in Brian Waterman's report to you, which we delivered. What we see as an error on the Ecotech, on the existing replication, was we don't see any evidence that test holes were done prior to digging. There was none of that March 2002 protocol to do test holes. Okay, here's the water table.
Right.
Now engineers take that information and design your replication. But in the past, before March 2002, we didn't always do test holes. What we did do is, we saw the elevation of the existing wetland, we saw the land rising up. We normally went on a plan, we would design it to take that upland soil down to match the elevation of the existing adjacent wetland. And then once we got out there, started to do the digging, we would then adjust the elevation of the replication area if we had to make sure that within 12 inches. So every time I dig a replication, back then, now you do the test holes, you would, if you were 3 or 4 inches too high, or I've done many mass highways, replications where they had them wrong because they didn't do the test holes, and I'd get out there, whether it be Hanover or Natick or whatever, or Sturbridge, and adjust those down so that when you looked at it, or when this thing was growing for after the second growing season, I clearly had a predominance of the plants that I put out there were growing,
Right.
and the herbaceous layer started growing wet too, because we seeded it, but it was wet enough to grow. What didn't happen here, talking to Dugan, he went by those elevations. The elevation was too high. It's as I told you, it's 3 to 12 inches on the northern replication area higher than it by the regulation, and that left us with that red soil at the surface. But the red soil was there. Why, Mr. Dugan? We followed the elevations on the plan, and you just can't.
Right.
You have to adjust when you're digging. That's why there's a wetland replication specialist on site to ensure you've got the hydric soils within that 12 inches period. I mean, and so it wasn't the wrong area. You could have made a wetland out of that area potentially if you went down deep enough. But they didn't. They just followed what was on the plan.
So if the soils are wrong and the hydrology after you regrade it and fill it is wrong, then you're going to grow the wrong stuff.
It'll eventually.
Basically.
It'll be like what we have in the northern and portions of the southern. We're going to go out there and see the herbaceous layer that's completely upland. There's no sedges, no rushes. It is the black-eyed Susan, Queen Anne's lace, Canada bull thistle, evening primrose, and Japanese bamboo.
So
period.
basically,
And then, yes, ma'am.
But again, there's a condition in that original order of conditions
Right.
that says, if it fails, you got to replant it.
In the-
So, are we talking about asking the board to?
but it sounds like it's not just
Forget about that
replanting, it's
condition?
regrading and
If you dig it deeper, is it going to work? But
if you, I'm sorry, ma'am. Yeah,
No, I'm just.
Go. the commission has the right to modify or look at your conditions that you've already issued. We were going by the original contention that the replication area is a wetland, and that's why and Margaret said, because it's a wetland, you can't move it. It already counts for the 5,000. Well, we'll look at those language, and it is not that wetland that she said for the reason why you couldn't move it.
I think what you're hearing here is that you have one opinion, certain members of this commission have
Yes,
a
sir.
different opinion, which is supported by DEP, and that's not something that we may be able to reconcile.
And the
Okay.
other thing I wanted to point out too is, I know you haven't had an opportunity to look at Margaret
Yes,
Blake's report, but she talks in there about the fact that the wetland area appears to have changed since the original flagging was done. And if you recall, at the last meeting, I believe it was, there was discussion about the fact that things had shifted over. Do you remember that? And that things weren't necessarily where they used to be. And she is recommending in the report, she feels that the area needs to be reflagged because the wetland. And she told me on the phone tonight that you're basing all of your documentation relative to the bank that's being altered is based on the previous delineation of the wetland, and now that the wetland has shifted, you're not talking about the same thing. It's if the bank is different, if it's moved, then we're not talking about the same thing at all. You're basing what she said to me tonight on the phone was that you're basing your arguments and your statements and your calculations on where the bank was, not where the bank now is. And I know it's not fair because you haven't had a chance
But
to read the
that's
report.
okay, I can easily counter that. Because an order of condition that stands with a certain wetland line, that wetland line stands until that order expires. That's one point. So the wetland line that's out there is the wetland line that's valid, and you can confirm that with DEP. We've confirmed it many times. But there's one other point still. Even if the wetland channel system is meandered over the period of time, it's still, the wetland is supported by hydrology. And we don't have the hydrology. Whether you put the channel back where it was, you still will not be low enough to access hydrology on the majority of both the southern and the northern, all of the northern and portions of the southern. DEP's opinion out of Boston was that, yes, while you have an existing order, when you file a new notice of intent, you have a right to look at whatever's out there for wetlands.
Right.
Excellent. Let's look at what's out there for wetlands and find that they're not wetland. We will find that they're not wetlands. The plant species don't make it, the hydrology doesn't make it. You don't have 75% of the surface area covered with indigenous plant species found from the lost area, and you don't have the hydrology. Those are 2 points out of
I
that.
understand your argument, but again, I'd point out, and I don't want to, I'm going to wrap this up.
Yep.
But I want to, again, my point is, there's still that special condition in our first order of conditions that says that if it doesn't work, you got to redo it. And I know, I'm just saying,
I came into this project with the Margaret Washburn report stating that you cannot move this replication area because
Right.
it is a wetland. Not because you had an order of conditions that you can vary from, that you can allow us. The commission can allow us to move this wetland if it's not a valid wetland. We will go out there when we see that it is not a valid wetland.
So you probably shouldn't say the commission can allow us to move this wetland if it's not a wetland, because your argument
You
is
could,
it's just a hole
I'm
in
just
the
saying
ground.
you could.
Right.
I have actually another question that's not related to this.
Yes, sir.
I think you acknowledged that snow was deposited in this area, again in violation of one of the
On the
conditions.
bank.
Yeah, I was
My
gonna-
question is this, all right?
Yes, sir.
What kind of equipment was used to deposit snow on the bank? Do you know? Was it a front end loader?
No, that was purely plowed there from the
Okay.
rows in between the cars.
All right,
And it-
but what kind of equipment was used to plow the snow there?
Like a pickup truck
Just a
type
regular
of plow.
snow
Okay.
plow?
Well, doesn't it stand to reason that some of the alteration to the bank may have occurred because they
Oh.
plowed snow there?
I have photos. The snow never got into the wetland.
Okay.
It was on that berm it was within the asphalt bituminous berm in that crushed stone boundary. We'll see all the pictures from the winter. There
Okay.
was no snow in the
All right.
replication areas. No, it didn't go that far.
Okay, good.
It's wide enough that that it never, and my multiple photos over the winter will, and you can look at some of the photos from that I presented to you. It
Okay.
Didn't go there.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
In an effort to wrap it up, Sheila, when is the second meeting in May?
Oh,
Who has a handy dandy phone with
I
a
have a
day?
phone with a calendar on
yeah,
it.
go
Hold
ahead.
on.
I've got mine in my pocketbook.
Taking a minute. It is the 28th. 28th.
All right, I make a motion, we
Late as it
continue
can be.
this,
No, that's right, is it? No, it's the 29th.
Thursday?
Yeah, because the May 25th is a Sunday.
Yes.
It's on the,
I'm sorry,
looking
you're
for
right, it's the
Wednesday.
28th.
so make a motion, we move it to, we continue it to May 28th at 7 o'clock.
I'll second that.
Okay, just a question. You're going to take, Mr. Kowalski, you're going to take Margaret's report and you're going to respond to that?
this
before-
one and the last one.
Okay. So will you be responding to that prior
Oh, yes.
to May 28th?
You have a requirement now, 7 days, and
Yes.
it'll be well before the 7 days.
Okay.
Great.
All right, there's a motion and a second to continue to May 28th at 7 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Okay.
Thank you
All
for your
right,
time,
you.
Commission. On a side, we are, the Mass Highway is coming out for the other mitigation that we're proposing, and we talked to them today, and we're meeting with their maintenance people as a plus. To Eddie Pond. Thank you,
Thank you,
Sheila.
Glenn.
Thank you.
My file just grows every day.
Yep.
Is it Margaret's report to you? I don't know.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda was the continued public hearing at 7:30 for Christopher Fritzy relative to 65 Chestnut Avenue. Is there a motion to reopen that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. The hearing is reopened. Good evening.
How you doing?
Okay, how are you?
Good. I'm Jason Dubois from Burton Engineering.
Did you get my email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. I have 5 new plans here. I don't know how many you needed, but
Well, if you guys remember from the last hearing, we were looking for a narrative about the wetland delineation, the
Oh,
hazard
right.
forms, the revisions on the plans, and I know we're getting this today, and, you know, also, you have to request a waiver from the,
No build zone.
25-foot no work zone, no, you know.
Yeah.
So anyways, Mr. DuBois had emailed me this morning and
I
said,
can look on.
you know, what did you need, what are we looking for, you know, yada yada. And so I responded and told him, and I told him about our policy, but we did request these things, so,
Oh,
so I know you're getting it now, but,
yeah, maybe not.
so anyways, Mr. DuBois, go right
Yep.
ahead.
I did put under the notes under number 4 the waiver request. I did a narrative.
Oh, on the plan? Okay.
Yes. Yep. And I also I did the last page of that also is a written waiver request as well.
Oh, okay.
Does everybody have a copy?
I don't.
Is machine on? Jim?
Yeah, I can go do that.
Thanks. I have the original here that's not stapled if you want to make copies of this one instead.
That'd be better. Be cleaner.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan, you can take this and
Thanks.
some light reader.
Thanks, Dan.
Is there any, I guess the question I have about this, because it's so close to the water, is there
Yep.
anything to be done with that pipe to make sure if it gets a hole in it, it's not gonna leak right into the water? Because it's a sewer pipe.
Yeah.
It's right
I mean,
next to the water.
typically they don't. I mean, they don't typically leak. I mean, it's the same
How
pipe.
would we know?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean,
Yeah,
unless
we
something.
start seeing stuff in the water.
Well, unless somebody went in and stabbed it with something. I mean, it's it's a pretty heavy duty.
But
is
it
it?
does happen.
Yeah.
Is it a PVC?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
It does seem unusual that it's that close, though.
I just, yeah.
I mean, it's probably, from the edge of the water, it's probably about 30 feet, 30 to 40 feet from the edge of the water.
Oh, so that's just to the BVW, it's not
Yes.
to the actual open water?
Yeah, the water line is actually, you can
Right.
see the other dashed line.
Okay.
And, you know, doing the delineation on this, it was a little bit tricky because this, at one time, this was all mowed all the way up to the lake,
Yeah.
to the pond. And there was some issues, you know, over the last, what, 10 years or so with the pipe that had caused it to back up over time. You know, so the wetland, you get some vegetation and things that started growing in there, you know, over the last 10 years or so that kind of turned it into a BVW further out than just the mean annual high
I
water
know
line.
exactly what you mean. 'Cause
Yeah.
I had delineation done and there was an intermediate zone that was
Yep.
different from.
Yeah,
So I don't.
so I mean, you know, I think it's a conservative
Thanks.
delineation besides.
I see.
And where the disturbance is all lawn right now. That's one of the reasons why we're requesting the waiver from the 25 foot because,
It had been previously altered.
yeah, I mean, it's all lawn. I mean, he's been mowing it for 30 years. I mean, it's still, even right now, it's mowed.
So
I mean,
it's not
right down to,
7 feet from the water? It's
No.
7 feet
No,
from
it's
this
7 feet
BVW
From the
area,
line.
which,
Right.
yeah, which is kind of even
an
questionable. I mean,
intermediate
it's- yeah,
zone, sort of.
yeah,
I think I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like a wet meadow or something.
yep.
Okay.
You know, and the reason the pipe is on that side of the house is because it's so flat from the house that the sewer is tied into. By putting in the new house and relocating this pipe, it's just so flat that we need to come further down Chestnut Ave to get into the main.
Right.
Because the pipe in the road is fairly steep.
Right.
So by the time we go further down, we're making up like a couple feet of pitch.
Yeah, I was by there the other day, I was taking a jog, but there's a real bank by the
Oh, yeah.
the road. It goes
Yeah.
like that.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But then after, it flattens
Flattens
out.
out,
Yep.
yep.
So, I mean, you know, the plan is to do the erosion control, move the sewer line, and then basically relume it and put it back to grass, just like what's there now. I'm just trying to think too about if that, you know, if there were to be a leak in that pipe. The material out there is gravelly material. I don't think it would leach out of the sidewall. I think it would just drain down, just typical of a septic system, really.
Okay.
The notes make reference to the need to obtain easements.
What's that?
I said, I'm looking at the notes,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
talks about a requirement that easements be obtained on lots 1 and 2.
Yes.
Where are you in that process?
We're working with the attorney right now to see whether or not he needs basically 2 easements or just 1 easement because the line is there now. They're looking to close on the lots.
Uh-huh.
So they're gonna probably need an easement at the existing line and then an easement on the new line. But we're trying to avoid that just so that there's not easements all over the place.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's really nothing that's gonna change as far as work in the field. It's just a,
right, but it may have an impact on maintenance, right? I mean, is there going to be a right to
Oh, yeah.
gain access to the easements to maintain? I mean, in the event that there is an issue
oh yeah.
down the line with the sewer, that
Yep.
they can gain access.
Right, no, yeah, it's gonna be a maintenance easement.
Okay.
Yeah, sewer maintenance easement
Alright.
will be written into the deed.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Nope.
This side of the table? No?
Do have the DEP number too if you need that.
Oh, you did? Great.
Yeah.
You got that.
Great, okay, good. All right, then if there aren't any other questions or comments or anything, is there a motion to close?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Did you want to vote on the waiver request? Or do you want to wait till you do your order of conditions?
I would move to grant the waiver.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Okay, so you have a 5-foot waiver.
Okay.
So that's good. So we'll do the order of conditions tonight before we depart.
All right,
Thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Sorry to keep you over time.
Oh, no problem. Thanks.
Thank you. Dan,
Huh.
this is that Mullen, came back at me. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dan, for watching that. All right, under discussion of the miscellaneous, I had an item that was brought to my attention this afternoon. I had a phone call from Bill Coyle, DPW Director, and apparently about 2 o'clock this afternoon, he received word from Mass DOT that there is an abundance of funds that they have to spend before the end of the fiscal year, before June 30th. Otherwise, the monies will be returned to the state's general fund. So anyways, they approached Mr. Coyle about the opportunity to mill and pave a portion of Route 20 that's the only remaining portion through Auburn that has not been paved. And it goes roughly from the old Auburn Racquetball Club to almost up to Appleton Road. So it's quite a stretch. It's about $750,000 worth of work that they want to do, but they want to start Sunday night. So anyways, so what we're going to do is Mr. Coyle is through his open order of conditions, his comprehensive order that they have with us. They are going to, the town is going to take the lead on the compliance with the wetlands aspect, the wetlands regulations aspect of the work. The work is milling only. There's no drainage, there's no excavation. It's milling of the existing pavement within the limit of the existing pavement. There's no widening, there's no excavation of any sort to put in new drainage or anything. They're milling that level of pavement down and putting an overlay on. The overlay is roughly 2 inches of pavement. The work's going to be done in the overnight hours, probably either between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. or 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
How long will it take?
He's guessing about a month. He said it would take about a week for them to mill it, and they would probably mill the entire length, and then they would probably take 2 to 3 weeks to pave, depending on the weather.
Right.
If we have a lot of rain, they can't put down the pavement in the rain. So anyways, it's an opportunity for the town.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for the town to see that portion of Route 20 finished. And it's not going to, it's funding from the state, so it's not like the town is going to be...
It's found money.
Right, it's found money, and that's the only part of Route 20 through Auburn that has not been paved. That whole section down past the new Lundgren Honda dealership, if you remember, that was all paved when they built that dealership. The rest of it's all been paved through, and so that's the only piece that's not done. And like I said, it's all within the limit of existing pavement. There's nothing being done beyond it. So the highway Coyle is going to oversee the installation of all of the erosion controls just in case. And every night after they mill, during the night after they mill it, all of the dust from the milling, they're going to sweep that section of the road every night after they work. So there's no opportunity for anything to go anywhere, because it's all
It'd
going to
be nice if we
swept
got a
up.
ledger to that effect.
Well, like I said, I can have him put something in writing. This just came up literally this afternoon.
I understand.
And they have to have an answer by tomorrow.
Well, I think if they will explain the scope of the work, say that there's going to be no will and impact, then I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
But I think it has to be memorialized.
Right, and I can have him certainly put that in writing. I just got a phone call, it was like 4:30 this afternoon. 4:30, 5 o'clock.
I gave him your number around 3.
Oh, you did?
2:30, I said, don't call it till after 3.
So anyways, that's the deal. That's what the plan is. So I will have him document that in writing for our records. But I just wanted to inform you of what I was told. So, it'll be a great opportunity for the town to get that done.
Right.
And like I said, it's simply milling and repaving. It's not anything beyond that.
Okay.
So, anyways, I just wanted to inform you. So I will, Sheila, could you convey to Mr. Coyle for me
Sure.
that they need to put something in writing, just
Yeah.
basically reiterating what he told me on the telephone? That would be great. I don't know if we need to take a vote on that, do we? Just document in the minutes that we asked for it in writing, or you can make a motion if you'd like.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we ask Mr. Coyle to describe the scope of work for the milling and repaving of Route 20
Second that.
Okay. And presuming it's what he's represented, then we're fine.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted.
I'll abstain because it involves Mass
Oh,
DOT.
that's right, I'm sorry, Dan, thank you very much. Okay, we have the Auburn Middle School on here, and we're carrying this agenda item forward in case there are any issues. I know they had a groundbreaking, right? Or are they having a groundbreaking?
17th.
Yeah, it's coming up
Okay,
next
so
week.
it's coming up.
Working like heck over there.
Yeah, I know, there's a lot
Easy.
going on. There's a lot going on over there. So, we're just basically carrying that forward. If any issues arise, we have an opportunity to discuss it and vote on something if we need to by having it on the agenda. 11 Bridge Street, I don't know if you all saw some emails back and forth between Sheila and I relative to this site. You know, the more I've been thinking about this, Sheila, I seem to recall this from last year, but I don't recall the specifics of what transpired. I thought that the problem originated in Oxford. And Sheila had a conversation, I asked her to call Judy Locklear, the Conservation Commission agent in Oxford, because I thought that this violation issue was on their
In
side.
Oxford, yes.
But apparently it is not.
It is in Oxford.
It is. But
Yes.
she felt, I don't have the email with me, but she felt
I
that
have it.
that Auburn Conservation Commission should,
Be notified.
Well, no, I mean, it says here
We
that,
should go do a site visit.
but what, I
See
mean,
what
what
it has
jurisdiction
done.
does Oxford have to send a violation letter? Do they have, is there an order of conditions? Because it seems to me, it'd be like us sending a violation letter to someone who lives in Worcester. You know, it's not gonna have any effect, you know? I
well,
just
the
want-
violation is in, like if the violation was in Oxford, but it was caused by someone in Auburn,
Right.
then I think that Oxford has jurisdiction, we do not.
It would be helpful to get a copy of that letter.
Yeah. That happened when I was out that month of April.
You know, it's kind of like when someone is doing something in the buffer zone, but unless and until erosion enter, or outside the buffer zone, I should say, and unless and until erosion enters the pond, like from a road project, for example, until it enters the stream or the pond, we don't have any jurisdiction.
Right.
So even if it comes from outside of our area of jurisdiction, once it enters our area of jurisdiction, then we do. But until then, we don't.
And this
Seems
is
like we
obviously
don't-
going back to last
Right.
spring, so it's a
Yeah.
year ago.
Yeah,
Right.
he hasn't been doing anything new there. They just have a neighbor that just called and said, I wonder whatever happened with that. There were a few other issues that she was concerned with.
But it's not in Auburn, right?
The violation is in Oxford, but the
Yeah.
people live in
Yeah, it
Auburn.
was a new construction in Auburn that the property was in the two towns.
Oh, it was
So
straddling
it's
the
straddled
line.
both? Well, did he file with either?
No, he didn't, and she told him to file with us, and he said he's working with us.
But he
He
isn't.
wasn't,
But he isn't.
and wasn't working with them either.
Well, we need to take a look, and then if he's...
So that's why she thought you should go
You may
down
need
and
to issue an
just,
enforcement order and tell him to file.
Although, I
Yeah.
mean, it sounds like the violation is months old.
oh yes,
Right,
it's a year
or
old.
more than a year old,
Yeah.
probably.
Yes, but you know what? This may give us an opportunity to use our enforcement authority.
Yes, it may.
Did he come into a meeting at all?
No, I don't believe so.
No.
No.
So would it
We have
pay
no
to look
minute-
at the minutes?
Sheila,
Oh, here it is, I knew I had
you checked the minutes, right?
it.
And you told me
No,
you found it.
apparently he just called,
Adam, wasn't it?
I think Adam got a call from the neighbor saying that he was cutting the trees down. And then Adam contacted Oxford. And Oxford went over there and she said, you better check with Auburn. And he said, oh, he's working with us.
But he wasn't.
No.
So nobody
So
knew.
this, if you want me to read what I have here. The email that you got, do you want me to read that?
Go ahead, I don't know.
Okay, I spoke with Judy Locklear at Oxford Conservation. Adam Burney called Judy on April 23rd of last year stating he received a complaint of tree cutting. She informed me that she had sent a violation letter to Craig Byland on 4/29. She called Craig Byland on May 2nd, telling him to file with the Auburn Conservation. A few months later, she visited the site, and Mr. Byland stated that he was working with the Auburn Conservation. The vegetation had grown and nothing more had been disturbed. 7/1/13, the woman had called asking what had happened. Judy thought that Auburn Conservation should check the site and determine if he should have filed. The trees and vegetation were cut in the buffer zone.
So he told her that he was working with us, but he never
Right.
was.
Apparently not.
So,
We should take a look.
yeah,
So,
okay.
So this gentleman had no further contact with Adam at all, or anybody in the office?
no. I think we referred it to Oxford, and then she spoke with him, and he said he was going to,
Oxford spoke
Check
to the
with
property owner, and he said that he was working with Auburn. She left it at that.
right.
But that wasn't true.
Well, that's why I'm asking if he talked to somebody in the office, because he may be thinking, hey, I talked to Adam, whatever, or whoever,
Maybe.
and got this guidance, and therefore I was following that. So in his mind, he is working within whatever realm. So,
Could be.
I mean,
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
Nope. Absolutely not.
No, so, I mean,
well, I was asking, maybe Adam could tell us if this is the only contact he's had
yeah.
with it, this one time.
Yeah.
Did you have a conversation with Adam about the call?
Well, he just said he did talk to her about it and thought she was taking care of it.
She being Judy
Judy,
Locklear
as far
in
as
Oxford.
I remember what he said.
Okay. Well, the bottom line is it sounds like we need to take a look and
Oh,
see
yeah.
whether we need to issue an enforcement order requiring him to file now, after the fact. So I'm guessing at 11 Bridge Street. And that leads us into site visits, and now that the weather's better, I know there's an awful lot of site visits on here to do, so I thought maybe we could, at least try to tackle some of them. Maybe we should keep the 1220 road project and keep that as a separate day, because that's quite a lot to look
Well,
at.
these three are all in the same area, though. Hill Street, Appleton, and that makes a difference.
The 1220 is huge. I mean, I don't know. where-
Well, that's just it, I mean,
Yeah, that's gonna take a
that's
long
gonna, that to me, I would I would take a look at 1220 on a separate day. And you might even wanna have, we could contact,
Bill
Bill
Clarity?
Clarity and see if maybe somebody from, DOT could come out here when we were gonna go on our site, if someone could be made available to, just to go with us to the different areas.
Okay.
I don't think I went before, but I think when they were filing with us, didn't they come out here with some kind of a bus or something, and some of you guys went on the bus?
Oh, we had a big day and we went through.
They took you
the
all
areas.
around,
All the
right?
areas,
It was a 2-hour thing, I think.
It was.
2-hour tour.
It
Not
was.
two-
We wore vests and everything.
Big.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, all those cars driving back and forth at 50 miles an hour. Sure, a lot of fun. You get to see where the water went, and the water went different directions.
Yeah, and you probably got to see a lot more with them because of the bus and the safety things and all
Well,
that.
we went into the areas, we
Yeah.
really did get down and dirty, so.
Some of them were off the road, and some of them were behind the Pub 99, stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty scary down there, behind Pub 99. Well, so, taking 1220 out of the picture, what do you think about calling Clarity to see if we can get someone from DOT to join us on a site visit?
I think it's a great idea.
Do you want to lump the other ones together and try to do them on one time, and then see if we can get some dates from Clarity, and I'll get some dates from you guys, and see if we can find a common day and time?
Sure.
Well, do you want to kind of get a date together that I can give to Bill?
Yeah. I'm assuming you want to go on a Saturday morning, right?
I can't go this Saturday.
No.
I could go the next Saturday.
I'm trying to think what the date is.
I could go
The
this
19th.
Saturday, but I'm going to be away next Saturday.
I'm gonna be away.
When's
The following
Easter?
Saturday, so
Easter's coming.
the Saturday
Maybe the
after
19th.
Easter, I'll be away.
The 19th
Would
is,
be next Saturday.
that's right.
That's Easter weekend,
Which is
right?
Easter weekend, yes.
Right, so Easter
Yeah.
weekend is kind of out.
So maybe the weekend after.
Yeah.
I can't do that one. I'm doing something on that Saturday. But
Yeah, I'm going to be away the first Saturday of May.
Saturday, Saturday, Saturday.
A likely story.
That's the hard
Tuckerman
part with
Ravine.
the spring, you know? Spring is coming
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about the Saturday after that?
Second Saturday of May
Second
already.
Saturday in May.
Yeah, that or a
Month
Sunday,
out.
or have to go out a week, go on a
I have no
weeknight.
idea at that
Why
point.
can't we do the Saturday before Easter? It's just,
I could do the Saturday before Easter.
I could too.
So maybe some of us can go.
Maybe some of you can go,
We
yeah.
could do the 12/20 one or something.
What's that Saturday,
We did that one.
is that the
That
19th?
is the 19th.
I might be available.
Well, do you want to talk to Bill Clarity and see if he could be available or someone could be available on the 19th?
Okay.
At what time, like 9?
Sure.
Okay, so you want to
What's
try
the
to do
purpose of
12:20 on April 19th,
What is the purpose of that one again?
to see whether there's any violations out
Oh,
there that
okay.
need to be corrected.
Hawaii 12/20.
So, all right, so you're going to try for April 19th at 9.
Yes.
Now, what do you want to do about the other ones? Do you want to try to maybe get together in a couple of groups? You want to try? You're going to want to wait till May? I mean, we've waited all winter. You want to wait till May to look at the other ones? You want to just carry them till the next meeting and try to set something up
That's a
then?
good idea.
I think that's a good idea, actually.
All right. So, all right. So we'll try for the 19th with Mass DOT, and then
Okay.
Sheila, you can just let us know.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
For a date.
Pardon me?
Sheila was looking for a date. Sorry.
But I'm fine.
Getting late.
Okay. And again, site visit 12:20,
Yeah, yeah.
we really need to take a look, you know, it's that enforcement order. The site visit will
We
really
need to have the plan.
give us some insight, right. Okay, minutes of the 12th and March 12th and March 26th.
I just had one on page 3.
Which one?
The first one, March
The
12th.
Okay.
Kind of in the center, Sheila, it says Graves Engineer and the town engineer have reviewed the site. The stormwater report was applied to the planning board and Graves Engineering.
Yeah, it should be engineering.
Well, no, I mean Graves isn't going to supply the report to itself. It already has the
No,
report.
but she has Graves Engineer.
Right, that to be corrected. But I don't know who the second party was, other than you might just want to cut it off at the planning board. But other than that, I didn't really.
I had a couple points under the hearing on the Mossad. At the beginning, the hearing, it's a reopened hearing, not an open hearing, it's a reopen.
That's that.
And the other thing is, there's no mention in your minutes about the discussion about the violation with the snow storage in the buffer zone.
Okay.
And also, I think we should explain the fact that the reason why we took a 10-minute recess was so that the applicant did not want to agree to continue the hearing until the requested time with the vegetation being out. So the applicant needed to go make a phone call to find out if the client was amenable to continuing the hearing. So that's why we took a
The recess.
Right.
Are we on the 12th?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm missing that page
This is,
or-
it's on
Page
the
2.
Page 2.
It's also in the center,
Yeah, it
towards
says-
the end of the
Oh, okay,
paragraph.
all right. And
I
that
just
was
think we need to
for,
explain why we took a break. There was a reason for it.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we rarely do that.
Well, why don't we just say that the applicant wanted time to consult?
Yeah,
Before.
with the client
Well,
relative
just
to,
say, no, just say
agreeing to a
they
continuance.
wanted to consult prior to whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to have
any
a,
detail.
okay.
all right.
I just think it needs to be noted.
Yep, all right.
no, good point.
And then
The
the
discussion about
violation,
the
you
snow
said
storage
about the
violation.
snow storage?
Right. And they readily admitted that and acknowledged it. And
Yes,
said
they
that they would
did.
correct it, if you remember.
And then Sheila, on page 3, it's the last full paragraph where it says Michael Garland questioned. It should be an ED after question.
Okay.
Back on the first page, third line from the bottom, the northern area is all upland herbs. Say upland
Yeah.
vegetation.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that
Yeah.
too.
Parsley,
It's
sage,
like
rosemary.
basil, you
thyme.
know, a little bit of.
Okay.
third page, last line. I'm not sure what it means. That stated the new wetland regulation, parking, and stormwater basins are a little different. Are they not as were shown on the plan, or? Not sure what that statement means. They're a little different.
Sure. probably.
Okay, aren't we all?
No, we're all special.
Some more than others.
Yeah.
Why don't we just
I'd agree.
omit, why don't we
I
just
think we should
omit
just take
that?
that out.
Yeah, the line doesn't really mean
It's
anything.
gotta be comprehensible. Okay.
So with those corrections, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All set? Okay. And, March 26th,
I have to abstain. Wasn't there.
Well, that was quick.
Oh,
Was not there.
I've got some here if you want to look at them, Chuck.
any,
I just found an extra word, which is no big deal, under the Auburn High School batting cages, page 2 at the end. It's pretty much the last sentence. Dealing with providing that a written description of the work to be given to the board should just be given to the board.
Okay.
That was the only one I came across.
okay.
I would move to approve the minutes for March 26th as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I thought you just said you were going to abstain. Daniel?
Oh,
Aye.
reflex.
All those, opposed?
Three
Abstention?
Abstention.
Yeah,
Okay.
we abstained and we approved it.
All right.
There's nothing else.
No.
What do you
We need to
have?
do our order of conditions.
Oh,
for
yes,
our
yes,
65%.
It's all right, it won't take long.
Hey, I got it already.
There's a
for
game
you.
on.
Oh, is there a game on?
No, somewhere.
No, they played this afternoon. I have no
Somewhere.
idea if they won or lost, you know?
I thought they
I
were
know they were
still
leading 1 to
playing.
nothing when I last checked,
Yeah,
so
keep
Thank you.
Keep it for next time.
that was like an hour. before the
Maybe I'll
meeting.
mark this one.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Yes.
For
For Chestnut Ave, right?
65.
65 Chestnut Street, and that's with a T. 2 T's, not 1 T. The plan shows only 1
Scrivener's
T.
errors,
Really?
Yes, really?
Yeah.
a lot of them, actually.
Okay. I would move to issue a standing order plus the following special conditions. Okay?
I think there are far too many town meeting members at this table.
1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, 11, and that's it.
So that's a standard plus 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 9, and 11.
You are correct.
Okay.
Second.
Is there any other discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted.
We need to sign something.
Yes, we need a
Yes,
signature.
it's right here. Here it is.
Bill signs it.
While we're signing, I'll make my preemptive motion to adjourn.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Anything-
All those in favor of
anything
adjourning?
else?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So voted. Thank you very much.